We've got one more initiative to shine a spotlight on. I'm super excited for this panel to kind of close out the morning of day 3 here. We're going to learn a little bit more about Mission Daybreak. How many people had a chance to kind of chat a little bit with Mission Daybreak out in the lobby area? Yeah, I've seen some hands, and I've seen lots of hands that are not up, which is great, because we're going to have a chance to hear from some of the voices that have been intimately involved in this project. So I've got 4 wonderful people to bring onto the stage, to these cozy chairs. Could we give a very, very round of applause for day 3, our speakers? We've got Dr. Amanda Leenow, Sam Dorison, Casey Woods, and Mac McClett. Let's hear it for them.
Good morning, everybody. I'm excited to see you all. We're so excited to talk with you a little bit about Mission Daybreak, both the challenge as well as the movement that we're continuing on. But I want to start by making it clear that the 4 of us on stage are only a small, tiny portion of the many people who've been involved. We've got a nice little video we want to show you to demonstrate the voices of some of those other participants who've been part of this movement. Thank you.
I care about suicide prevention because it's personal, it's real, it impacts the lives of so many people, including mine.
Suicide prevention matters to me because one death to suicide is way too many.
Suicide prevention matters to me for a lot of reasons, none the least of which is that we need people here. And we're grateful to do everything we can to support our veterans, to keep them here.
Mission Daybreak was a grand challenge focused on saving lives lost to suicide and helping people with their suicidal pain.
I'm Sonia Batten, Vice President of Programs at Stop Soldier Suicide. At Stop Soldier Suicide, we're doing our part to prevent veteran suicide by providing no-cost telehealth services to veterans and service members nationwide who are at the highest risk of suicide.
I'm Shruti Gurudanti with Televeda. We are working on Project HASO, which is a comprehensive plan to conduct evidence-based validation of Native American community-based practices like talking circle and storytelling intervention.
I'm Skip Rizzo, and I direct the Medical Virtual Reality Lab at the University of Southern California. Together with Soldiers Strong, we're Team Brave Mind. We're creating Battle Buddy, a virtual human-enabled mobile health app that delivers personalized health, wellness, and suicide prevention content to U.S. veterans.
The Mission Daybreak Prize is accelerating our ability to acquire and analyze devices, and as a result, gain new insights more quickly so that we can understand suicide risk and work with VA and the community to save more lives.
Participation in Mission Daybreak was incredibly valuable for us because it gave us direct access to some of the foremost experts in suicide prevention. And engaging with these individuals who are deeply familiar with the infrastructure of the VA helped us develop a solution that's not only more informed, but really profoundly more impactful.
As a part of Mission Daybreak, I got to meet innovators, subject matter experts, and advocates like myself. I got to hear ideas I hadn't heard before and connect with other people who share that mission.
There are hundreds and thousands of people who care about this problem, who want to be part of the community of solvers and the opportunity and optimism about making a difference.
as you can see, it's pretty profound. The number of people who are involved in Mission Daybreak and the number of people who continue to engage. As was noted, there's a few booths outside for you to engage with some of the solutions that came out of the Mission Daybreak Suicide Prevention Grand Challenge. The Mission Daybreak Suicide Prevention Grand Challenge started several years ago, and hundreds of people worked together to launch this challenge, and 1,300 people submitted solutions. We judged those solutions, we're working with and paying attention to the winners of those solutions, but we want to focus in on the human impact and the stories of the people who've been involved so you can get a sense of how engaged and involved. I'm really so pleased to have my counterparts here with me today who's going to tell the story of what inspired you, a little bit about their journey, and how we're looking to the future together. So I'm going to start with you because you're sitting next to me, Sam. So what inspired your focus on suicide prevention? And in particular, how has veteran experiences shaped your solution?
Yeah, thanks, Amanda, and it's fantastic to be here with Matt and Casey and this whole group. Just to provide a little bit of context, I'm the CEO and co-founder at Reflex AI. We build AI-powered training and quality assurance tools, particular for crisis lines. So we think of our training tools very similar to the flight simulators that pilots use to train before they fly a plane. Those same sorts of simulated experience and practice experiences is what every single person should have as practice before they pick up calls on a crisis line, work for emergency dispatch, work for a hospital. And our experience in this space started about 5 years ago at the Trevor Project Crisis Line for LGBT youth, where we really saw the need to expand the crisis line and do it in a really high quality way. And it's really, really challenging to train hundreds of people for a crisis line consistently in a high quality way. But we built AI-powered simulations on the grandfather of ChatGPT, GPT-2, launched it in 2020, landed on the Time 100 for that technology in 2021, and then in 2022, the VA launched Mission Daybreak, and it was clear as day that this was an opportunity for Reflex and our technology for another incredibly vulnerable population that deserves support, needs support, and where there is a large institution, the VA, focused on this already, we could play a very specific role in training for Veterans Crisis Line. Every single slide, every single presentation ends with, if you're a veteran in crisis, call 988 and push 1. And what inspires us is we get to be part of that. We get to be part of making sure that when anyone calls 988 and presses 1, that they're talking to someone who has the soft skills and the hard skills to do what they need to do in that moment.
I love your solution so much. So for those of you who don't know, I'm a psychologist by training, and I have personally trained hundreds of people, and the ability to provide feedback in real time as people are interacting is so profound. To be able to say, oh, I thought I was being empathic, but actually I was just talking about my own feelings. So I think it's so incredible to use AI to train people in real time. And I love that you're thinking about how do we create this very veteran specific by getting feedback from veterans.
Yeah, it's such a good point, Amanda. And one of the things that we really pride ourselves on is how can we be the most implementable AI, right? There's a lot of AI out there for a lot of different things, and veteran suicide is a crisis today. It's not a crisis for 5 years from now, it's a crisis for today. And being able to say, and this is part of the journey piece, we've done this before. We've never done it for veterans. We need to learn a tremendous amount to make these scenarios nuanced and specific and relevant for VCL training and then the VA more broadly. But this is where we want to live. This is the type of work we want to do.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm going to pivot to our next person because I want to hear from all of you. Casey, your work has always been around veterans. So I'd love to hear how being part of Mission Daybreak has influenced you, and tell us a little bit about your journey of working for and with veterans.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I founded and run an organization called Forge, which is the only national nonprofit that's specifically focused on working from within the firearms community on non-political, really important word, initiatives to end gun suicide and gun homicide. And when we started looking at how do we achieve success on gun suicide prevention, 2/3 of gun deaths are suicides. Veterans and service members overrepresent in that number of gun suicides. And so we were looking at what are the solutions? Well, I think most of the people in this room know what lethal means safety is. It basically means that science has proven that if you can put time and distance between someone in crisis and the deadliest suicide methods, you can save their life. Firearms are deadlier than all other methods combined. And so it was really looking at how we've got this evidence-based solution that people aren't using, and why is that? And so we went to the veteran community. That was where we began and rooted this. And what we eventually discovered was that, lethal means safety works. But number one, people don't know what lethal means safety is. It's like this wonky term that's clinical and nobody understands it. And number two, it was most often being delivered by clinicians, which it is a proven fact by research, no offense to the clinicians in the room, that gun owners in general, veterans specifically, often do not trust clinicians to talk about their firearms. And so I was like, basically what you have here, the equation is you've got an evidence-based solution that people aren't using because it's got a messenger and a branding problem. And that is a problem I think we can solve. And so we spent about 3 years on the ground on a pilot working with hundreds of veterans. We are big believers in what we used to call creative hackathons. Now human-centered design is the fancy word for it now. But it's basically getting a bunch of people in a room and talking it out with the people who are most impacted. And so we worked with post-traumatic stress groups, we worked with student-veteran groups, we had a creative hackathon with the 5 biggest veteran motorcycle organizations in New England, which was awesome. And it was all about how do we get this right. And so we eventually settled on shifting it to a peer-based focus. So the Overwatch Project, which is our solution, is essentially the Friends Don't Let Friends Drive Drunk model, except instead of talking about alcohol and cars, we're talking about firearms and suicide. And then it was about how do we talk about it differently in a way that people can accept it. And we spent a lot of time working with veterans who had done it, who had intervened with someone, asked about their firearms, held onto their firearms, and then had saved somebody's life. I was like, that's success. And so I used to be a journalist. That was my past professional life. And I would interrogate these veterans, be like, well, what words did you use? How did you have that conversation? And veteran after veteran said, I just fucking asked. What's up with your guns? And that, folks, if you go to our website, is our call to action. We are very blunt, in your face, non-clinical, very authentic. And so we had been doing that we'd spent about 3 years on a pilot. We had gone national a couple of years before Mission Daybreak. But where we were at when we began the Mission Daybreak process was we had all these pieces. We had been on the ground working with veterans in a very authentic, comprehensive way for years, but it was the big, how do you step back with the help of a lot of great minds and think about how you could scale this and have the impact that we want to see, which is really transformational norm change. And so that whole process of along the way, and it's the Mission Daybreak folks like you, where we got to ask a bajillion questions, which was amazing, and then also the people that were part of the process. There is immense power in communities that are intentionally built around folks that are willing to tackle the hardest problems. And it is a magical thing to get people in rooms, virtual or otherwise, to talk about those solutions and to hash them out and to learn from each other. And so these folks, I'm in touch with them on a regular basis. Just saw him last month. We talk all the time. In touch with a number of the top, especially the top 30 finalists. And we are feeding and supporting each other's work in a very real way all the time. So that community is absolutely priceless.
I love what you're saying. That's been what's been so amazing for me about being part of Mission Daybreak, has been the way that we've all been so open to continuous learning from one another. So I mentioned with Sam, we think we're being empathic when we're really being sympathetic. We think we're talking lethal means safety when someone's like, I don't know what that means. That sounds like a fancy word. How can you actually talk to me? Mm-hmm. This opportunity to continuously learn from and with one another, it's been profound. Yeah. So I love that you brought that up. Yeah. And I love seeing how the different teams are learning from and with each other. Mm-hmm. And I've seen also connections, hey, let's work together and provide an even better solution. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to pivot, though, and we'll get a little bit of your journey, Matt, and where you've been coming from.
Sure. Well, first, I'm an Army veteran, and I just want to thank you all. Like, what the VA has done is truly amazing, and especially the work of the innovators in the room. I mean, you guys even gave us lumbar support. Like, this is like a really thoughtful crew. So, real quick, just background on me. So I was an Army nurse. I did combat trauma for 3 years before I pivoted and led the inpatient psych unit at Fort Hood. So veterans and service members have been part of my journey since I started my career. And quite frankly, I kept pivoting away and always ended up coming back to this community for one reason or another. But one thing I found, is just like suicide inpatient admissions, this high utilization of resources is often preventable, right? So there are opportunities further upstream. We know that over 40% of people who complete suicide had seen a primary care provider within a month of completing the suicide. So there are a lot of opportunities for us to really intervene and find these veterans. So that's really what we're focused on, is establishing an infrastructure for that. So I know hopefully a lot of the people in this group, at least my behavioral health team, knows about measurement-based care and how can we actually track outcomes over time. That's a really great start, right? That helps us to at least start to stratify and identify, what is the severity and what conditions does an individual have. But that only gets us so far. And a couple things need to happen. One is interoperability, right? We need that information and data getting back to where those providers can actually use it. So as we shift to this new Cerner-based system, right, we need to make sure that that discrete data is living right where those primary care providers and other providers need it in their dashboards, and then know how to actually action off of that. So what does it mean to have a PHQ score of 20? What does that mean to me as a primary care provider? So that's one half of what we're trying to do, right, is how do we gather this information, make it intelligent, and be able to feed that to the providers so that we can intervene in real time. The other aspect of what we're doing is thinking about, someone over here talked about PAUSE and that program earlier today. And something that said, paraphrasing here, so don't mind me, but I didn't even know about this program. How often does that happen in the VA with some of these great underutilized programs that exist today? So what we're really worked on is to be able to complete these automatic referrals with veterans. So as you come in and engage, and we have an app, but we're not just an app, right? We have kind of web platforms, we have tablet-based initiatives, but all of that will help collect the data and match veterans with the programs that are best fit for them. So based on their condition, their severity, their location, and their benefits level. Right? How do we actually gather all this information and start pushing veterans to the programs that we know will work for them? They just haven't had the access, or maybe there's been too high of a barrier to actually get into those programs for them. So we're establishing a whole infrastructure here where we're able to both engage these veterans, match them up with the programs we want to, and then feed all that information back to providers in real time, including real-time suicidal ideation and other suicidal thoughts, which of course is a lot of what brought us here today. So I always get the question about the 2 in the morning, what happens when you identify someone at 2 in the morning, right, that has suicidal ideation, where in very real time, they're getting that feedback to call 988, right? And then that alert is going to the provider, who then can reach out as soon as they can. But it's those sort of interventions where we're there in real time when someone needs us that are gonna save a life, and we've seen that.
I love, so you can see here the passion of the people who've been involved in Mission Daybreak, and you guys are just a sample. So we deliberately chose people to come up and talk to you today of a wide range, right? So from use of AI in training to community engagement and like getting out in the community and really getting to know people, and using technology to connect information in real time, thereby taking that time that humans would have spent asking those questions and allowing the humans then to spend time really connecting with each other with the information already at hand. So you can see here, this is only a tiny snapshot of the range of solutions that we had involved with Mission Daybreak. And it's because suicide is an incredibly complex problem. And we know that we're gonna need a wide variety of solutions in order to move the needle in any impactful way. What I'd love to do is have you guys just maybe think about what you heard each other talk about, and maybe just marinate a little and think about what is it that you're distilling that really was magical about the time during the challenge itself, and what you're enthusiastic about and thinking about for the future. I'm not going to start with you because I started with you last time, and I'll let Casey go first.
Oh, I'm sitting here thinking she may have to repeat that question. So, what was magical about the process?
Magical about the process and what you're hoping for in the future.
In the future. Oh, what we're hoping for in the future. Big dreams. In terms of being the magical of the process, I am such an absolute, like you probably already saw that. I love processes like that. I often say the process is the point. You know, when we do these creative processes with the folks in the veteran and military community, the process is the point because along the way, you create these strengths and ideas that would not have happened in any other way. Like if you do not create these opportunities for people to learn from each other, you can't. Like I was struggling with something 2 weeks ago, some new part of a program, and we were trying to figure out what to do with it. And I was like, okay, we're just going to get a bunch of people in a room. And so this was for service members, and I just called up and I got a group of them in a room, and in 2 minutes they had solved the problem. And I feel like Mission Daybreak was like that, but on steroids. It was intense and amazing, and I will not lie, painful sometimes because it was a very accelerated process. And again, you know, it sort of pressure builds progress in ways that I don't think that we would have achieved had we not had all of this kind of outside. When you're out there doing the work, you know, it's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and not take that step back and think big and be around people who are thinking big with you. So that was the magic for us and for me. And then in terms of what I'm dreaming for the future, I always tell people I get to be on the truly hopeful and optimistic side of suicide prevention. And I think that a lot of people in Mission Daybreak share that, where you know, we're going to train 20,000 people minimum in the next 12 months, and tens of thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands more with these bigger campaigns that we're doing. And I get to see every single day the people who call us up and say, we just used what we learned from you to save somebody's life. And it never gets old. I never get tired of it. It changes my day and my life every single time it happens. And to see that at scale, truly transformational norm change on firearms and lethal means safety. We know that we can do this. We've dropped drunk driving deaths by half with a very similar intervention. And it's just about getting that idea and that belief and that knowledge and that will into people's hands and then giving them what they need to use it.
Oh, I love what you're saying about that. First of all, you're the master of alliteration. I really love the way you put things together. Wasn't that amazing? You know, the journey has been kind of the destination, right? Is what you're saying. Like, it's this opportunity to then snowball out beyond and continue to grow and build. So I love what you say. But you said it far more beautifully than I did. Matt, how would you reflect on your experience with...
After you say Casey's such a great speaker, you go to me. Yeah, I think what's been magical for me in this process is really bringing the rest of my team into the veteran community. So we work with a lot of organizations, right? Big payers, big health systems, right, from the civilian side, and we even work in the DoD with the resilience programs. But VA is its own animal, as we all know, right? So being able to bring folks in from my team to learn about veterans, and particularly the vulnerable populations. During Mission Daybreak, we had several presentations on things like you know, the Native American cultures and others that are impacted and really need support. And I think that was really eye-opening for my team. But how do we think about the product and design of our solution in order to have the biggest reach and impact? And that the ability to customize, right, and making sure that we're really speaking that right language based on the veterans that we're speaking with. And I think that's been really helpful for us going forward to make sure that we're making something that speaks to whoever it is that we're trying to reach out to and touch. Whether that's the provider, right? Again, making sure that providers get the information where they need it, and the veteran, and making sure that they feel comfortable and feel like this is speaking to them, because no one's going to use a solution that isn't. And I'd add one more thing too, which is, you know, when I was in the DoD, we had these little prescription pads. I'm sure you guys have seen those before for the different mobile apps, right? So you used to like check which app you wanted that person to download. And by the way, I love the VA apps. I used to use them all the time. Cognitive processing therapy, PTSD coach, right? They're good stuff. But as a veteran, do I know where to go and get those things without someone giving me that prescription pad, right? So those are the types of things where we think it's going to be relatively easy lift, right, for us to help start getting this all into one ecosystem where we're directing people to those right resources, whether they're a vulnerable community or in treatment, whatever it looks like, we can customize that for the individual. And that's where we're at today, which is super exciting.
Yeah. So for you, it was like, wow, like an opportunity for your team to really engage and understand through the webinars and resources and kind of human connections with mentors internal to the VA, a little bit more about veteran culture and specific veteran populations that are at risk, and really tailoring your solution. It sounds like you're so excited and on fire to get to the next step. That's
right.
exciting. Yeah. And you get to close us out, magic and the future.
Yeah. I think the magic for me about Daybreak was about action. That, yes, we were being asked for, I think the title of Daybreak is almost a little misleading, where they're looking for new ideas, but pretty much every time I interacted with someone about Daybreak, it was about, how are you gonna get this done, right, in some way. And that was from the webinars where we learned about the cloud security environments that we were gonna have to implement in, which I find exciting, but most people find a little bit boring. Or the questions around different vulnerable communities within the veteran population, right? There's 18 million veterans, there's 18 million different stories. We need to build a set of now 8 simulations that can be used in training that can build the skills to get on the line and talk to any veteran, right? And it was about that action where me and my team, my co-founder John Callery, others on our team, could hear those stories, could hear the statistics, could ask follow-up questions, which really set us up to be able to say, as part of Daybreak, here's our vision for what we could build. It is unique for the veteran community. It is a proven technology, but it's never been proven here before. This is how we're going to prove it with you as quickly as possible. I mean, my hope is really large in this space. I think Reflex has an obligation to the veteran community by the nature of being able to sit up here as a winner of Daybreak, and that includes our work with Veterans Crisis Line. It also connects to Matt's statistic that 40% of veterans who die by suicide have seen a primary care doctor in the last 30 days. Is every single primary care doctor in the VA trained on suicide prevention, right? And how can we potentially use AI-powered simulations to prepare them for those conversations in really best practices ways? Can I give one other magic of this? So coming out of Daybreak, one of the things that we heard in interviewing veterans, doing surveys, was veterans also turn to each other for peer support. This is not a surprise to anyone in this room. They also turn to the VA, they turn to their spouse, but they turn to their peers. And the research that we did found that 92% of veterans are open to supporting or being supported by another veteran in a mental health challenge, and only 25% feel prepared to do so. So as part of those findings, we're actually launching on Veterans Day Home Team, which is a very short veteran peer support training tool with AI-powered simulations as part of it, so veterans can learn and deploy the skills to practice with each other. And there's a huge section on firearm safety, and I'm really glad I'm not still in school, because I'd be written up for plagiarism from Overwatch's work, right? All the work that Casey has done, it was just absolutely critical for our simulation and our tactical training on mean safety, right? And firearms in particular. And the reason we know Casey is she was 3 booths over at the Mission Daybreak kind of judging event, I guess almost exactly a year ago. And I never would have built that relationship or recognized or been able to see so easily and quickly the expertise of Forge without being part of Daybreak.
The question is, are you dropping any F-bombs in your
So we actually...
Because I believe in the power of a well-placed F-bomb to change the world.
So we actually there is a lot of... It is not easy to build safe AI-powered simulations that curse copiously, and we have done it, right? And we have done it because your friend is not coming up to you when they have suicidal ideation saying, I'm really struggling with my resilience right now and looking for forward-looking coping skills that will help me make it through the next month, right? They're saying, I'm really going through a lot of shit, right?
Yeah.
And the response is, yeah, it really sounds like stuff has been crappy, what's going on?
Yeah.
Right, that is the opening you're looking for. So if you're not willing to put it out there in real, actual language, what's the point of a cool simulator, right? It's not gonna resonate, it's not gonna be real practice. It's like having a flight simulator where you just fly without turbulence at 35,000 feet. That's not how you train.
Yeah.
So yes, there is a lot of cursing. We get a lot of questions about it, but we're unapologetic about it.
Send them to me. Like,
Yeah.
I actually have research about the effectiveness of being more authentic. So yes. So yeah.
See, what you're saying about being authentic is part of the magic to me about this movement, is that we've been real with each other. The number of times that I've cried with people about like a personal story where we've all been affected, things we're learning, things that we're engaging with one another, and the humility that we're bringing to what we're trying to accomplish, I just think it's beautiful. We're all like, yes, absolutely. I could learn more from what you were doing. What you're doing is amazing. Let's figure out how we can learn together and do an even better job, like in collaboration. So I didn't mean to cut you off, Matt, but I wanted to jump on that
You're great. I
authenticity.
have so many comments from you guys. So, 30-second story. So I used to run group therapy at Fort Hood, and I used to go up to the whiteboard and put the F word up, and then I'd walk away. And then I'd come back and I'd say, all right, everybody, what's the F word? And within 2 seconds, the service members were screaming.
Yes.
Fuck, right? So, so it ended up being feelings, and that was always letting them down when we ran that group. I just wanted to quickly touch on the importance of the community of veterans itself. So my non-paying side hustle is running a VSO in Philly, and it's all about bringing veterans together to do community service and policy advocacy work together. And what I found is there's big differences kind of in our different generations of veterans, right? And the post 9/11 veteran is very eager to serve and continue that service. That's a big reason why the VA brought on your National Service Day now, right? That is really important. But in order to drive them and do the behavioral activation, right, if we want to use the right term, we need to make sure that, again, we're linking them up with those people to do something that they actually care about. Again, I don't want to talk ill to VFW and American Legion. All these older kind of big six have their purpose, but no one's looking to go to the bar anymore, right? That's not what this generation of veterans looking to do. They're looking to engage with one another through something meaningful. And I think that's really what's important here, is how do we start matching them up with each other to do that service, because frankly, that's what we're looking for.
I love how all of you have touched on the peer component, right? That we want to connect with people who can understand us or are willing to reach in and learn a little bit more about who we are as a person in an authentic way that makes sense to us and that is tailored to us. That's really what I'm hearing all of you guys talk about. Although your solutions are really different, there's definitely a coherent theme about like really authentically connecting with the person in front of you.
Well, we believe veterans are the solution. And not just as a population that is deeply impacted by firearms suicide, we believe they are the solution and the leaders for the entire firearms community. And we work with gun owners in general. It's not just veterans, though Overwatch Project is officially like almost all of our life right now. But the idea was, okay, you've got 60 to 70 million gun owners in America. It's a huge community. Who are the influencers? Who are the leaders? And when you do research on who do gun owners trust to talk about firearms and suicide, it's current and former military and law enforcement. So our vision for the future for system change has always been the veteran and military community is the first wave, and we establish this as the norm and the solution there, and then they go on to lead in the firearms community on the solution. So that's the system changing idea, on not just on veteran and military suicide, but on firearms suicide in general. So we view them as the solution. It's not like, oh, we need to go help the veterans. It's like, y'all are the key to success, not just on this, but for a lot of people.
Yeah, I love that. Veterans at the forefront, leading the charge. I mean, that's been a big point of respect. It's not that we're helping other people who we're also reaching out, seeing that they can be leaders and they can lead us along the path for the future. Any closing remarks from any of you guys as we're finishing up our time here?
I would just say, I think, Amanda A., thank you for leading the charge on Daybreak, but also thank you to everyone in the room that the innovation ecosystem at the VA is clear and clearly growing. And every single person that Reflex has talked to at the VA has been a yes and, or how can I open that door? How can my team do something that contributes to the solution? And that is not the case most places, I think, just to be very candid. And it's something that I hope the folks in this room don't take for granted that you're all sitting here, because every single presentation I heard, or even earlier today, I was like, oh, I wonder what we can do to help, right? And I think that's the orientation that it's going to take in order for suicide prevention to actually be a multi-pronged solution. Every single one of those prongs has 50 different partners helping. So it's not just 50 different solutions sitting up here, but it's 50 different partners helping each of those solutions get to the finish line.
It's a new tagline of the VHA innovations ecosystem that collaboration is the new competition.
Yeah.
Right? So while this was a challenge and there were winners, what came out of it was profound collaboration.
Sure.
You guys want to share anything?
I just feel like we're at this moment where it all feels possible. And I think that all this hard work, the decade, I feel like there's probably been like at least a decade that's taken to get to this point, this moment of innovation where everybody is trying these new things, accepting that we can fail forward, that we can try stuff that doesn't work and then iterate. And we are a very relentlessly innovative organization. Like Overwatch Project will never be finished. It will never be a static program that doesn't change. And I feel like now we're surrounded by people who have a very similar mindset, and that is where it all feels possible. So all the people in this room, all the people that we've worked with through Mission Daybreak, this is the moment. And I feel like pushing through right now in the next 2-3 years, we are going to see dramatic impact on all of these things that we want to see change and improve. So
that's what I hope too.
I mean, Amanda, you and the VA team, I think what's been really great is you've been willing to listen as well as teach. And I think it's very easy to be a VA professional and be like, we know best. And that hasn't been what I felt like through this relationship together. It's, hey, what have you learned working with your civilian counterparts? And then how can we bring that and emphasize that in the VA? And I think that's been really meaningful. And I think that's what's built these relationships that actually are going to last. The other aspect of things, anybody a BHL or like BHL Touch user? Anybody know what BHL is? Yeah? All right, cool. So that's now a NeuroFlow product. So that's part of our team is that measurement-based care solution. And what's so exciting about that in the future now is A, it's already integrated with Cerner. So that's super exciting. And the second thing is now you can start to see an ecosystem where these different solutions are going to start becoming one. And that's going to make your life, looking at all of you, easier. And I think it's also going to make the life for veteran easier. And that just, if that doesn't amp you up, I don't know what will, because like this is literally the future, is making things more efficient and seamless for you as the provider in order to have more time with the veteran. And that's really what we're trying to emphasize here is we're not creating more efficiency so you take on more people, right? We're creating efficiency so that we can really care for that veteran and take the time with them. And I think that's really, really powerful.
It all comes back to that human connection. So I want to thank everybody who's in the audience today for your time and for listening to us, and encourage you to check out, there's even more winners and solvers who are out in the booths outside this room where you can try out a few of the other solutions. Encourage you to ask questions, to learn more about it. You can check us out on missiondaybreak.net. We're continuously updating progress and how we're learning together with all these solver teams. And I also am really enthusiastic about the fact that we're now moving together in collaboration with one another and what we can do to have an impact. I'm just profoundly optimistic and enthusiastic about the next few years. So thank you guys for your time, and thank you all for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you, man.